Howdy. This is Mission Texas.
A political podcast about winning Texas by 2032, or else we may lose the White House for a generation.
I'm one of your hosts, Alex Clark.
And I am Kate Rumsey.
Other podcasts may focus on the day-to-day or the next election, but we are keeping the eyes of Texas on the bigger prize. What happens after the next census?
Welcome back to another exciting episode of Mission Texas. We are joined by Jon Rosenthal, an engineer and four-term state representative who flipped a seat in 2018. I'd love to hear that. He's running to make the Railroad Commission more independent from industry money, more transparent, more focused on reliability, safety, and cleanup. So glad to have him with us. And congratulations, the nominee to represent us on the commission, because there is no primary challenge left.
Thank you. And, I'm going to knock on wood. I actually have, in my entire political career, I've never had a primary challenger. So I'm pretty happy about that. And I'm glad that I don't know exactly what it's like to have to win a primary.
So now you're talking to Democrats just because you want to and you enjoy it. You don't have to. You can just move on, but here you are.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gearing up for November.
I'm going to stipulate I do everything because I want to.
Yeah.
I'm at a point in life where it's just not worth doing stuff you don't want to do anymore.
Well, can you back up a second and tell us a little bit about the primary? Because I thought you were going to have a challenger. Like, I thought there was going to be somebody, and then they decided not to run. But it was somebody who I'd understood also was potentially somebody that we did not know whether they were a Democrat or not. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So actually, we knew she was not a Democrat. And it's not that she didn't decide to run. She didn't decide to run against me. So, or let's say she decided not to run against me. So the story is, we're talking about the Railroad Commission in Texas. And for those who aren't super plugged in and think it has anything to do with choo-choo trains, it does not. It's all about oil and gas. So it's, drilling, it's got mining and pipelines and, storage and chemical waste. And so it's all about the oil and gas industry in Texas and more overall the energy industry. So the person that we had run as a Democrat last time is named Catherine Colbert. Catherine Colbert. And I had met her. I mean, she won a competitive primary as a Democrat 2 years ago, because the three commissioners serve 6-year terms and one is up every 2 years. So that's the seat that I'm running for. So she ran 2 years ago, prevailed in the Democratic primary, and then didn't campaign at all, didn't do the hard work of moving around the state. We talk about the hard work of campaigning. The hardest work is raising money. You got to call people and ask them for money. And let me tell you that the lifetime career mechanical engineer is super not accustomed to that. And super uncomfortable with it even to this day. It's just, if you want to succeed, you have to be willing in this business. You have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone. So she ran as a Democrat. Her opponent last time emphatically insisted that she was not actually a Democrat. And it turns out her voting history is all Republican primaries for 10 or 12 years, her entire history in Harris County. And then apparently she was registered as a Republican wherever she was, New York or Massachusetts or something in Yankee land. And so we were, she had stated her intention to run, and we were preparing to fend off her primary. And the surprise at the end of the day, she did file to run, but she filed into the Republican primary. So she's literally shown her colors as a Republican. And while I'm not angry about it, because I'm now your Democratic nominee, the people that supported her as a Democrat when she was campaigning with Democrat clubs and organizations and raising money from Democrats and using Act Blue, which is our fundraising platform, those people were pretty upset. And I can certainly understand that if you're supporting someone to run in your party. And then they switch parties on filing day and file and post out, being all proud about it and stuff. So she has joined a 5 what is now a 5-way primary on the Republican side. And we can talk about that and why I think that will actually help us flip this statewide seat in Texas. And I'm talking about realistically, like no BS, there's a real possibility here.
Setting aside the drama of a former Democratic nominee becoming a Republican nominee, or a former Democratic nominee 3 times becoming an independent, I'm still not over Mike Collier.
Oh man,
Right,
thank you
he's
for
all
bringing
that
that up.
aside.
a guy. Like he lives just north of town, I think. And we've been friends ever since I got into politics in 2018. When I left industry to first run for office, he was running his first time for lieutenant governor. I think he had tried to run for a comptroller before
He ran
that.
for comptroller, he ran for lieutenant governor, he ran for lieutenant governor, and now, despite his Instagram bio leading with the word Democrat, he is an
Yeah.
independent.
We're now the anti Mike Collier podcast, so
Apparently,
we keep
I'm just so
keep
burned
bringing
up about it. He might be a nice guy, but I don't have any idea what he's doing on this race. He should have just ran in the primary.
I feel like he's so smart, and this is such a really a
Not
misguided
smart.
move. Yeah, not smart. You
Yeah,
know,
misguided is
smart people do stupid stuff all the time. You know,
True.
ask my wife. I probably am on a half a dozen not smart things that I've already done today.
So you are a smart person, and you actually have the background for the job you're running for. But again, I feel like this is so confusing for the average voter. And I'm an attorney, I'm an activist, and the whole railroad commission thing is still pretty murky to me. Can you like
Yeah.
just
What the heck?
demystify that? Like, what did they actually do? Why is it called a railroad commission? And then like once you've done that, I want to know like for like an ordinary person who does not steeped in this stuff, what are like the practical outcomes, what like a good railroad commission could do versus the one we currently have?
So what is it and why should we care? Something like that.
Yeah, like what is it? What can be done with it if it's being used correctly?
So it is a great question, and I'm trying to learn how to answer this question in 30 seconds.
Fair. This is a long form podcast. You don't have to do 30
Yeah,
seconds.
you don't got we got all time. Yeah.
No, but when you speak to groups or you want to talk
I got
about this, you really need to encapsulate answers and
Yeah.
the
I know your campaign manager. He's gonna keep you on task. So
he will. I'm sure he will.
shout out to Favaz, who I know.
Fawaz Anwar is already working miracles on this campaign. So proud of the work that him and Catherine Kaminsky are doing. I'm going to shout out to Fawaz because it's a direct result of their efforts and a very loud whisper campaign that I'm sure convinced this woman to run as a Republican instead of trying to take me on, because that was going to be a primary where we weren't going to talk about the Railroad Commission at all. We were going to talk about her voting and campaign record. And it was going to be the mission to let millions of Texas Democrats know only one Democrat in this race. And now I don't have to do that. There's
Yeah.
already only one Democrat. All right. So back to the Railroad Commission of Texas and why it's called something that it's totally not. This is a legacy name, like from the 1800s. And to change the name of it would require legislative action, possibly a constitutional amendment in the state. There's been no will to do that through the legislature. But the long and short of it is, for the energy infrastructure in the state of Texas, you've got 2 commissions, one on the electrical side, which is the Public Utility Commission that we all know about now, Public Utility Commission. And on the other side is the Railroad Commission, which ought to be called the Texas Oil and Gas Commission. And the 2 of those are the 2 pieces of the energy infrastructure management. And then the corporation that we all know about now, called ERCOT, coordinates the actions of those 2 parts to keep the lights on in the state of Texas. And so if you care about your energy, your power staying on in the next massive winter freeze, it is crucial that natural gas gets delivered. And no matter what your feelings are about natural gas, more than half of the electricity we generate in the state of Texas is generated by burning natural gas. So until we have a replacement for that, we need that to keep our homes warm in the winter and cool in the summer and charge our electric vehicles and everything else. So it is the energy infrastructure of Texas. And if you care about both keeping the lights on in the next winter storm and your electric rates are
Mhm.
heavily dependent on gas delivery. And right now, actually, our electric bills have all increased. I don't know if everyone out there is noticing this, but because of Winter Storm Uri, we now have a surcharge on our electric bill that increases our electric rate, and it's to pay off the $9 billion hit our economy took from that winter storm failure. So not only did we freeze our butts off in our own houses, my power was out for a week. Not only did a couple hundred Texans die of hypothermia, not only did another 500 Texans die in their vehicles trying to stay warm, running their cars in their garages, but also the state got saddled with $9 billion worth of debt that we have to pay off instead of the people who actually made that money, who are the gas delivery folks, who just coincidentally gave the governor $1 million campaign contribution immediately after the session where the legislature decided not to hold them accountable for that massive failure that killed almost 1,000 people in this state.
Yeah,
Like,
narrators know it was not a coincidence.
Yeah. Hmm.
so that's the Railroad Commission not only governs and regulates natural gas operations, but if you care about your environment, if you care about global warming, if you care about being able to hunt and fish and operate your farm or your deer ranch, the Railroad Commission is also responsible for regulating the waste of the oil and gas industry, where it's a serious pollution issue. So it's one of the most important jobs that no one has ever heard of. So it's been estimated that over 30% of the Texas economy is either directly or indirectly related to the oil and gas industry. And the panel of 3 people that regulate the industry, nobody knows who they are or what they do.
Yeah. Well, do you think that the name is by design, that to keep people away from thinking about this office and how important it is?
It was not originally. So this is a legacy name from the 1800s when it actually did have something to do with transportation. But over
Yeah.
the years, and the way that the federal government has structured transportation law, the vast majority of all that stuff is done by the federal transportation, Department of Transportation. Even as recent as, I don't know, 30, 35 years ago, the Railroad Commission did do some small little piece. Like I think they were dealing with regulations for rail cars or that carried the oil and gas products. But they don't even do that anymore. And the legislature and the Railroad Commission and the people in charge in this state for over 30 years are happy to let it fly under the radar and be misnamed. And so it's anonymous. Nobody knows what it is. And the 3 of them are elected statewide, and they serve the industry they're supposed to regulate. 2 of the 3 make their money from the industry they're supposed to regulate. So
Which two?
my opponent, Jim Wright, operates a pollution company, a chemical waste management company that actually, it's my understanding it was being investigated and they were initiating proceedings to revoke his operating permit because he's such an egregious polluter. And then he got elected to the Railroad Commission and suddenly no accountability anymore. I'm sure that's also a coincidence.
Talk about a
Yeah.
return on investment.
Right.
And speaking of how the Railroad Commission's duties have kind of been lessened because of federal help from the Department of Transportation, I learned during the winter storm, because I feel like we all were freezing our butts off. Maybe your toilet wasn't working, mine wasn't. There was lots of bad things that happened during that time. Tried not to think of the trauma. But I learned during that time that Texas had its own grid that was completely disconnected from the federal system. That seemed really strange to me. And I thought, well, it sure would be nice if we could get some power
Some
from
help.
other states right now. Pretty annoyed that we can't. Is that a decision that's made by the commission, or is that more of a Texas legislature thing, or is this something that's going to be gone forever? Will we ever have the ability to rejoin the nation and power
So
share?
we could. It is a legislative decision to keep our grid functionally separated from the rest of the country. So the ERCOT region is most of Texas. You've got, I think it's 3 interconnects in this country, or there might be more. There are 3 close to us. So the Western, the Eastern, and is it the Central or the Northern, whatever it is. And we choose. So first, it's not that there's zero connectivity. We literally don't have the capacity to power share, and it's mostly because the leadership in the state don't want to have regulations imposed on the industry. So they want the industry to run free, and they claim that it keeps our rates low, which of course is garbage. It's totally not true. Before the winter storm, we were competitive with our neighbors. And I'll just remind you that even though we all froze during that winter storm Uri, our neighbors to the west and our neighbors to the east and our neighbors to the north, none of them had a complete power failure like Texas did. And those rates for residential electricity, roughly the same. Now we're actually starting to edge up according to our neighbors. So we're less competitive, and we're still, have a rickety ass grid that is susceptible to the same type of failure that we have. But they choose not to interconnect because they don't want to deal with the Federal Electrical Regulation, is it committee, or the National Electrical Regulation Committee. FERC and NERC are the 2 federal regulation committees, who, by the way, both did a joint report on the winter storm failure the state endured in 2011. So 10 years before we all froze our butts off, that we remember, 10 years before that, we had a similar failure of a slightly lesser scale. Interestingly enough, there was a 300-page report done about it. None of those suggestions were followed, and so we froze it. And we had the power went down. It was exactly the same causes. So they don't want to be regulated. Yeah, it's not that our electric rates are more competitive. What it is more dollars go in the pockets of the owners of the corporations that produce electricity and natural gas in the state. So it has nothing to do with reliability. It has nothing to do with the cost that we pay, because we actually pay as much or more as people in the neighboring states. It's all about self-dealing and corruption.
Which seems to be a pattern here in the state. But can we go back to your 2018 race that Alex alluded to? Because you have a history, and I think I mentioned this before we started the podcast. I think now a goal of the podcast is to talk to every person who flipped a seat in 2018, like you. And we've talked to like 4 or 5 of y'all, and I think it's incredible because that's a Trump midterm. There was a blue wave. There was a lot of organizing, and you were able to beat a pretty long-held incumbent, right? And flip the seat in Northwest Houston. So can you speak to that? Like what worked? Like what were you seeing, especially in terms of how to compare that to now, which we're in another Trump midterm?
That's right. So, and this is a great question. I hope everybody is interested in this, particularly people that are interested in sane governance, not just Democrats, but anybody that wants government to work for the people.
Right.
What happened was we were having a backlash to the first Trump administration. And I don't know if anyone, hearing this remembers how they felt that November 2016, when I was watching election returns and I was certain Hillary would win. And the only question was by how much.
Yeah.
If anybody remembers thinking that, and then it didn't go that way. And I was shocked and dismayed along with a large part of the country. And of course, I'm going to preface this by saying 30-year career engineer, 25 in oil and gas. I did it towards the latter third of my career, offshore subsea technology and operations stuff. I really enjoy doing, pays pretty well. I was so happy with my little life here in Northwest Houston, and then that went down. And after being a little shell shocked for a couple of weeks, I decided, like many Americans, that I was through just complaining about stuff. Okay, so what happened in 2016, after we're all upset over the result of that election, and then coming into 2017, everything went off the rails in terms of the administration and politics and everything else. I thought Bush Jr.'s administration was off the rails for, committing illegal war just to go after somebody's oil. And now that seems remarkably sane
Yes.
compared to what we have. But
Were you like a little delusional like me in that you thought, oh, he was really crazy on the campaign, but now that he's the president, he's going to have to kind of grow up a little and take this a little bit more seriously.
so we had all hoped.
I thought there was a moment where like, oh, he's gonna grow into the job or something, and
Yeah, there'll be some adults in the room. That did
No,
not
he
happen.
went on, was it 60 Minutes? And one of the remarks he made, I knew we were done because he was like, well, I'm the president and you're not. And I'm like, who freaking says that?
Yeah.
Gee.
Uh,
All right. So there a resistance movement started brewing, and I was part of it. So what I do want to emphasize is the environment that we have right now is similar, but I think it's an even elevated kind of even more potential here for a massive blue wave. So even in the face of historic efforts to suppress and discourage vote, even in the face of these efforts to disenfranchise voters by taking them off the rolls or redistricting out of their congressional districts and all kinds of cheating shenanigans that these people are pulling and really doing it by going after people of color. It's such a racist undertaking the way that they're going about all this. What I'm saying is, even in the face of all that, we're seeing dramatic swings in elections around the country, in special elections right here in Texas. But to me, it feels very similar. It's one of the reasons that I wanted to get into this race was because, the Democrat faithful in this state will know that it's been more than 30 years since we elected a Democrat statewide. And why do I think I can be first? Well, I think I can be among actually a group of Democrats that could get elected in the state. And I don't know how many or which positions. And we can talk about what we think will take to flip the state. But we have what could be, what certainly is the brewings of a dramatic blue wave in this country and in this state. And for it to happen, the people who are willing to do the work and do the organizing and be relentless have to do those things. And we need for society to step up and get out of their chairs and go vote. So
yeah.
that was my big motivation. And it's, at a time when back then in 2017, the incumbent that was representing me had been in the chair for 24 years. And for folks who know Houston, it was centered around Jersey Village, which is a very conservative, high voting, red leaning community. And people told me it's impossible. People told
Yeah.
me there's no way a Democrat can get elected. Northwest Harris County, I'm Cypress area, Cypress and Katy, you know, for those who are around Texas politics, my senator is Paul Betancourt. Dan Patrick, has his homestead in that area.
Oh,
And
good.
so it's like,
Ooh.
and
Yeah.
people still do this to me. They're like, you got elected as a Democrat in
Yeah.
Cyprus? And I'm like,
For
yeah,
our listen. Yeah.
4 times.
Yeah.
But it was a volunteer driven effort. It was not just me being relentless, but it was a whole bunch of people pitching in with money, with time, with effort. And we built even though it was not as well funded, like I was outspent 7-1. People don't know this district was R plus 10 in the cycle before. My opponent outspent me 7-1 in 2018, and I still
Wow.
beat him because we had developed a network of over 200 volunteers to knock on doors, to make telephone calls, reflect social media posts. Everybody who hears this, you can do something about this election and you can enroll other people to do something about elections. So it's not just for me. If you want sane governance at any level in this state, pitch in and help. Like, I'm tired of hearing Democrats saying, oh, I wish we could win races, but then they're unwilling to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Do something.
I would note
Yeah.
this for our listeners, like it's not always gonna be the top of the ticket. It's not gonna be the governor or the Senate races necessarily. It could just be Jon Rosenthal, our next railroad commissioner, and that would be a foot in the door. I think a lot of people forget in 1994, we always remember this is the last time we elected a Democrat statewide. That was actually a year where Ann Richards lost by 7.5 points. At the same time, the lieutenant governor, the attorney general, land commissioner, and comptroller all remained Democrats. Right? It was Bob Bullock, Dan Morales, Gary Morrow, and John Sharp all won re-election. At the same time, our governor nominee lost by 7.5 points.
And so, who was the first Republican to break through that statewide cycle?
It was a senator, right? Tower, is that right?
No. So the first
No?
Republican outside, of governor to the first Republican in that down ballot thing to get elected statewide, even when all of the rest of those positions were held by Democrats, was
Yeah.
Rick Perry winning his agriculture
Oh,
commission.
for
Oh my
agriculture
gosh.
commissioner.
So
That's a good piece of trivia. Rick Perry, former Democrat, Rick Perry.
My dad called him Governor Goodhair
Yeah.
because
I did too.
yeah, because he had good hair.
My favorite Rick Perry fact is that he once shot a coyote while he was on a jog. I have lots
Lord,
of
okay,
questions about that, but
yeah, I
But
don't
yeah,
know.
he has a degree in like animal husbandry or
oh, that's
forestry or
right.
something
And
like
he
that.
got his degree there at A&M, and he got a D in meats.
Oh, good.
His transcript got leaked somehow.
Yeah, I never got a D in meats, but of course,
Did you take meats?
no. I took a bunch of math and science classes, and I got a lot of good grades in those. My dad's a math teacher, you know. But the breakthrough happened for Republicans, and it was down ballot statewide. And part of what I think feeds into that is that those are not the culture war issue seats. Like running for Railroad Commission, Texas Oil and Gas Commission, let's call it. People can ask me, do you want men and women's sports? And I'll go, what does that have to do with keeping the power on in Texas? I'm here to keep your lights on, And
Yeah.
so let's talk about that. So I think that opens up some possibility just the way that it did 30 years ago for them, right?
Yeah. That's an interesting lesson. I mean, I think what we're saying is that even though we all are kind of enamored of these top of the ticket races like Senate or governor, we should be reminded that the Republicans were able to, as Alex was saying, that they were able to flip on the down ballot ones. And so we can, through potentially, hopefully, your race and other down ballot races, break through and flip. And I think a lot of folks focus maybe too much on those top of the ticket races that tend to like take up all the oxygen and money in the room. And yet we should be paying more attention to your races because that's the foot in the door to get us back on track.
Could be. Now, I have optimism around the Senate race, and I think people are underestimating our Democrats running for governor and lieutenant governor, and especially Gina Hinojosa.
Yeah, your colleague.
Do not sleep on Gina Hinojosa. She is a
Hey,
badass.
and our most recent episode, it just came out. I don't know when this one will publish, but I was asked for predictions, and the one prediction I came out of the gate with is that Gina Hinojosa will win the Democratic primary for governor. So there you go.
So I endorsed her before she announced because I
Before
have
she
faith in
announced.
her. Yeah,
You're part of the draft effort. You drafted her to run for governor.
it was no, I'm not part of that. But we do sit together on the House floor. We're colleagues and we're friends, and we're house neighbors. Actually, my first session, I can't remember, it was two. The first session, we were neighbors on the hall in our offices in the Capitol. So Gina and I are pretty close. And she said, I'm thinking about running for governor. Would you endorse me if I announce? I'm like, oh, hell yeah. You bet.
Love it.
Go
I love
for
it.
it. She's running her campaign out of Brownsville. Chef's kiss.
Yes.
Chef's
Yeah.
kiss. So for those that don't know, Brownsville is South Texas, close to the border. And Gina, she's been posting about how every campaign stop she runs into people that she's blood related to. So
I love that. Well, talking about geography, you're our first guest from the Houston area. Can you give us a sense of, if you can, like what are politics like down there? Because as we were talking about our recent episode that we had released about precinct chairs, like the Harris County is number 2 in the state, just behind Austin in number of precinct chairs. It's also really huge. It's so large. And it just seems like it's the area. If we're going to flip, we really have to turn out voters in that area. So, like, what's it like down there?
it's true. We do need voters to turn out. Harris County is like 4.6, 4.7 million people.
Yeah.
It's, I wouldn't say it's deeply, deeply blue, but in 2018, when we were having that wave, it went from being a slim Republican majority to Democrat plus 9 points. And so all of our
Wow.
countywide elections were won by Democrats around 8, 9, 10 points. And so we had a historic election of the county judge, which is the county executive. We elected
hmm
first Democrat in Lord knows how long, and beat a
Yeah.
popular
Lena.
Lena
Yeah.
Hidalgo beat Ed Emmett, who was a very popular incumbent and a mild mannered Republican. Really a moderate, and especially by today's standards. Right now, I mean, it's a mix. So there's a lot going on. We're going to have an open seat race for that county judge, the county executive position, because Lena's not returning. So that's an interesting race. The big deals out here are Congressional 18, where the
hmm
late great Sheila Jackson Lee and then Sylvester Turner both perished in office in successive administrations. And the people of Congressional 18 have been without congressional representation for something like two years. By the end of all this, if you piece together all the parts between Sheila passing away and the new representative being installed, it'll be close to 3 years without representation for those people. So it's something else we can be mad at our governor about.
Well,
But
my understanding is both of the contenders in that runoff are fairly young, right?
they are. It's Amanda Edwards and Christian Menefee, and they're both
Yeah.
great. Like,
Yeah.
I endorse Christian. We have a close personal relationship, but the truth is they're both great. Either one would do a fine job in that role. Christian Menefee is our county attorney who has made a living these last few years of suing Greg Abbott and suing the Trump administration and winning the majority of those
Yes. Yeah.
suits.
Love it.
Amanda Edwards was city council at large, so representing the entire city of Houston to 2.5 roughly million constituents. And so both of them are young and ambitious and smart and driven and will serve their constituents well. So that's the hottest race on the ticket. I
They
think.
are 37 and 43 respectively, dear listeners.
Okay.
Get excited to have some younger representation in Congress coming out of
Yeah.
Texas.
Yeah.
So I
Love
took
it.
the lesson when I decided I was considering moving on. Actually, had been in conversations for a number of years with my former chief of staff, Otis Epagaru, who's 30 something, it's 32, 33. Actually, he and my son are almost exactly the same age, like down less than a month apart. So Otis is running for the District 135 seat, of course, native son of the district. But at this point, we need to recognize Democrats aging in office have to have a succession plan. It's and we need to do like, you know, I don't want to put it like this, but we need to emulate those formulas that work. And while Republican Party has policies that are horrible, they have machinery and political practices that have been effective. And so a big piece of what I thought predicated our blue wave in 2018 was Indivisible. And the mapping of Indivisible was a movement that identified the techniques that were used by the Tea Party back in 2010, around that time, to exert outsized political influence for a small group. And they mapped those techniques to, more liberal, sensible ideas. And that was a large part of what I employed to win in 2018. So we can emulate the technique while still governing responsibly. And that's what we should be doing politically. So that means developing our bench, encouraging young people to run for office and be in those roles that develop their acumen and their ability to campaign and stuff, because it's, I'm telling you, as oil field trash, as an old oil field engineer, it's a learned art. Like, people ask me, "Oh, how did you win in 2018?" And the real answer to that is I worked with people that knew what they were actually doing, and I took their advice and did those things.
Yeah. It's hard campaigning, especially when you go from a career of not having done it and not raising money, and I'm sure engineer, you're like, how do I even begin? But you alluded to it earlier that you believe that with more people in the Republican race, it might be good for yours. So how do you perceive that, especially as we gear up for the general? Which, gosh, I mean, I know we're all thinking about the primary, but really, I mean, that's the end goal. We're kind of a long term strategy podcast.
Oh, good. Good, good, good. So we need to be using this time in the primary to build the war chest and connect to our base. So if people are not already fired up about what's happening, like in my case, I'll be talking about their high electric bills and reminding people of how they felt when the power went off and it was sub freezing temperatures outside. We also we need to be amplifying a message that is simple and powerful and something that we can all unify behind. So, a perfect example of that is talking about affordability and how everybody is struggling. And no matter what the administration or the Republicans in the state say about how great our economy is, people here are suffering and having
Mhm.
difficulty and losing their houses and their apartments. And having to make decisions between buying life-saving medications and feeding their families, and like should not be that way in the second richest state in the wealthiest country in the history of this planet, right? So
Yep.
just talking about affordability, and harping on it over and over again, and having everybody in concert working together from the top of the ticket down and from the bottom of the ticket up. And the dynamic there is so important that your statewide candidates hopefully can coordinate together. It's something Democrats have not typically done well in the past. If it's a bunch of House reps at the top of the ticket, I promise we've already learned how to work.
I know. You we haven't talked about this, but the you corn breaking. I mean, you were part of too, right? And you guys all flew up to Chicago or wherever else together. I imagine that creates some good relationships, especially for all of y'all that are on the hopefully the top of the ticket.
That's right. So those of us at the top of the ticket have now been through two corn breaks together. Um, I was the vice chair of the redistricting committee this session, so I was right in the middle of it. I helped to organize this quorum break along with shout out to our House Democratic Caucus Chairman Gene Wu, who has just been amazing,
We
in
want to have on.
organizing.
He said he would. He promised. So we're gonna have him on
Good.
too. Yeah.
And one of the things that this quorum break was so effective about, we were just talking about messaging. We were on message
Yep.
and we all did it together and we literally won the cycle. And because of that, California passed, developed, and passed a proposition to negate the Texas redistricting. So not
Yep.
only are they going to pick up 5 seats in California, I promise Republicans are not going to win all those 5 seats, not this time. They're not in
Nice.
Texas,
Yeah.
like the backlash that we're seeing now. But talking about how the top of the ticket can coordinate together and how we already know what we are, how to win and how to win together is going to be crucial. But also, let's shout out to the Texas Democratic Party, and people will poo poo on them all day long. They have helped to make sure we have a Democratic candidate in every legislative seat, all the way down the ticket, all the way across the state. And the importance of that
It's a
is
big
even
deal.
in districts that are so deep red, even in a blue wave, they're not going to flip. We understand that you need local people all over helping to organize and get out the vote. Democrats have been accused of abandoning rural areas, and there's certainly that's been a problem in the past. I will go there because there's oil and gas and agriculture, and those two things are very connected to the race I'm in. But having candidates who know the ground and the area where they're at, I promise nobody knows neighborhoods in this district like me and now Otis Ovigaru, who literally grew up here and has been in politics longer than me, even though he's very young.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have someone in every single spot, that hasn't happened since 1994, and if you were paying attention earlier, dear listener, that was the last time we won a statewide election.
Yes. Coincidence? Yeah. Correlation?
what I'm saying is there are no coincidences in Austin, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that gets into a new segment that we'd like to introduce to this podcast, which is a good news story from each of us. And that is an incredible good news
That's right.
story that has come out of the TDP. And we have to give our hats off to our friend Kendall Scudder, who's the chair, and our first guest on this podcast. So, but John, any personal, professional, political good news that you want to share for? Because I think everyone needs hope. We all need positivity here in the new year, gearing up for this election. What's some good news?
I have all kinds of good news. So, for me personally, I had a small triumph last weekend. I learned to make pasta at home, and I mean homemade pasta from scratch.
Yes, I love
And
it.
the first batch was very encouraging. And actually, I'm now going to make pasta from scratch today
Ooh,
for my mother-in-law, and my kids are coming over later this afternoon. I'm going to cook a dinner, homemade pasta, so that'll be fun.
Are
But
we
I
really,
took
talking like fettuccine, spaghetti, ravioli? Like what are we talking about here?
today is going to be fettuccine, and it's going
mm,
to be
Nice.
egg based with extra fine wheat flour.
ooh.
So let's see how
Excellent.
that.
Let's say I took a pasta making class at North Park Mall here in Dallas. Has a place called Italy. May have heard of
Hmm.
this place. It's like
Yeah.
three layers of different Italian food and shopping and restaurants and things. They had a special class you could take, and all of that information has now left my brain. So kudos to you to still making pasta.
Did you say North Park Mall?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Dallas.
My husband and I like to make pasta as well. So we, for my birthday this year, only a month ago, we made pasta for a bunch of friends, and it was an egg-based pasta. We made fettuccine because it's quite, it's really good to make. And honestly, we only added like a little bit of butter and like sage and Parmesan, and it was so good. It just tasting like the fresh
Well,
pasta.
hats off to you
Um,
chefs. I'm a Costco pasta kind of guy.
But there's actually more good news. I've had a personal triumph over the last year and a half that's much more serious than that. And I was experiencing some fairly dramatic health issues that have been addressed through diet and exercise. And so I sit here today. I'm down 50 pounds from a year and a half ago.
wow.
My
Way to
blood
go.
pressure is normal for the first time since I got elected.
Yeah.
Literally had to start going on blood pressure medication my first session, my first term. Even more important, my cholesterol has gotten much healthier, and the doctor actually cut my cholesterol management medication in half. And I'm in fight and ready shape for this campaign. So,
Fighting Jon Rosenthal coming to a town near
yeah,
Yes.
you.
actually, my colleagues call me Rowdy Rosenthal because I swear a lot, and I got in the face of a bully freshman term, and in front of a whole group of people that probably I should have thought better of. But now they call me Rousey Rowdy, and I was like, the dude's really much bigger than me. And
Before we get over to our good news, I want to know what was your exercise regimen? What do you like to do?
so people don't know I was a gymnast at the University of Texas at Austin back in the 80s.
No
Okay,
way.
Uh,
cool.
so
Okay.
So my exercise regimen has been developed over years, but the key to it for me is to learn to exercise like an old dude and not
Mm,
break things. And
yeah.
so my wife will say, "Oh, did you have a good workout today?" And I'll say, "Any workout where I perform all the exercises and
Yep.
don't injure myself, that's a good workout."
Injuries are
But I
brutal. Yeah.
I lift weights on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I do some cardio on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and that's the deal.
Great.
Nice. Alex,
Nice.
what's your good news?
Good news. I love that we're going to do this segment. I feel like we got to get into the habit of spreading the good news. Some good news that you can't help but share. My good news. I'm going to keep it simple for now and just say that my son turned 15 months old uh, on the first
Hey. Yeah.
on
Nice.
at the New Year's Day, and he is walking. He is walking everywhere, and it happened suddenly. And he'll be block walking with me in no time. I'm just saying.
Hey. Knock those doors. Yep.
Yeah, I've been telling everybody about it. He'll be walking around with me in a restaurant or something, and people will just like be completely confused as to what's happening. I'm like, look, it's his first. Like he's excited. This is a big deal. He's gonna
It's
walk
like seeing things.
over and over again. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you statistically, the door answer rate when you're block walking is dramatically higher if you're holding a very small child
Yep,
because they
small
see it
children
through
and
the
Yeah.
ring
puppies.
camera. There are people that just want to say hello to the baby. So,
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's so funny because when I ran for office, I had a 1-year-old and she went with me everywhere. I was block walking with like my stroller. And that was exactly right. Like I would just like be like, hi. And then they want to know, like, do I need anything? I'm like, nope, I just need your vote. I would love to talk to you about this. But I guess my good news is also that we survived 2025 and we are now in a new year. I'm really proud of us. Like, I can't believe just looking back on all the things that happened last year personally and with politics. And one of those being that we started this podcast. So I can't believe that that's now happened and we are well underway. So we're really proud of that. So that is our good news. Okay, we're going to wrap up and we'll give you with our last question, John. We're going to ask every guest, what is the last word for you on what it's going to take to flip this state? Are we going to do it? How are we going to do it? Also, please, before you go, let us know how we can support you and follow you. So, what's the last word?
because we're seeing competing views about what it will take. Is it a base turnout? Is it appealing to moderate, Republicans? And I'm going to say, while I am very hopeful and even optimistic about the possibility of winning a statewide race by a Democrat, there's not one formula that I can say is the thing that works. The test will be what actually happens. And I want to clarify that different races will have different dynamics around them. The person running for governor or lieutenant governor will have a different dynamic occurring than the person running for senator or the person running for railroad commission or agriculture commission. So the formula for me might be different than the formula for James Tallarico or Jasmine Crockett, who incidentally both have endorsed my campaign. So I'm not saying anything bad about either one of them. But what it's going to take is a huge effort, and it's going to take everybody on board because that's how we win, no matter what the race is or the dynamic. Folks need to be engaged and bring people in with them. This is a cycle where it's not enough to just vote. You people out there listening to this podcast, if all you're doing is voting in this election, you're helping Republicans win. You need to bring people with you, contact them, help spread the word of all these races. And to spread the word on my race, go to JonRosenthalTX.com. You can find me on social media. It's JON_RosenthalTX. It actually comes up on all the searches. Find the race and help spread the word about the Railroad Commission having nothing to do with choo-choo trains and everything to do with keeping your power on and your electric and power rates low. So those are going to be my last words on that.
Thank you so much. My daughter has now joined the podcast, so that's our time. Thank you so much, John, for having us, and we will sign off. See y'all next week, and God bless Texas. You can follow us on all socials at Mission Texas Podcast. Email us at missiontexaspodcast@gmail.com. This episode is edited by Juan Jose Flores. Our music bumper is by Adam Pickerel, and our cover art is by Tina Sohn.